So, listen to this. A couple weeks ago, I found one of the most impressive football stats I've ever seen. I built this graph to display the greatest ball carriers in football. At the very top, the severely underrated Lorenzo Insigne, Vini Jr., and, of course, Lionel Messi. Twice. But one player was completely clear of everyone else, Eden Hazard. Prime Hazard. However, then, I realized I had made a mistake. I was still using raw, absolute numbers, and those tend to hide the truth when players are not given the same game time. So, I did it. I clicked the per 90 checkbox and immediately realized what people mean when they say that a Chrysler looks like a Rolls Royce until you park a Rolls Royce next to it. As much as Hazard tries to get up to his level, even in his best attempt, he was closer to the rest of the pack than he was to Neymar. And honestly, I can't blame him, because no matter how many times they've told you that Neymar flopped at PSG, I think statistically, and when I say statistically, I mean everything, not just goals and assists, 17-18 Neymar is the greatest season ever recorded. And I can prove it. Look, just for starters, I'm just as skeptic about rating apps as the next guy. But in 17-18, SofaScore rated Neymar's performances as a 9.0 or higher in 45% of the matches he played. On average, he was rated at an 8.84. That's the single highest average rating they've ever given to any player in any season in the history of the top 5 leagues. And the thing is, it isn't just SofaScore saying it, it's also FotMob and Who Scored. In fact, even if you filtered it down just to the UCL campaign, all 3 major rating apps still agree he was the best ever. And let me tell you, he got going fast. On his first ever match for PSG, away at Janga, he had them so scared that when he tried to put in a through ball to Cavani, their whole defense just collectively guided the ball into their own net. Regardless, 10 minutes later, his through ball did find Cavani's feet for the second goal, and another 20 minutes after that, he did score one himself, which, paired with 7 key passes and 11 successful dribbles, guaranteed him not only his first Man of the Match award, but his first 10 out of 10 rating, hyping the fans beyond belief for his home debut 7 days later where, well, first he opened the score, then he played the 1-2 for Rabiot's goal, won the penalty for their third, eventually assisting the 5th, before finally making a complete mockery of Toulouse's defense to score their 6th. Getting his second 10 out of 10 rating in his second match for the club, even though up till then, no player in SofaScore's databases had ever gotten to 10 out of 10 ratings in a row. And by the way, he completed 14 dribbles in that game. That was the most out of anyone in the top 5 leagues that year, and only 2 players have managed better since. That's how you introduce yourself to a new league. Regardless, you know how it is with Neymar. A month later, he was already getting into a pissing match with Cavani over a penalty, reportedly having to be separated in the locker room. So, the very next game, he hit a goal and assist against Bayern to appease the fans. Then, 3 more against Bordeaux to make it 15 goal contributions before September was even over. Yet, of course, then, after scoring an equalizer in his first Le Classique, he saw his team go down and went and got himself a red card, forcing none other than Cavani to bail him out at the last minute. But guess what? After rumors of a rift between him and manager Unai Emery, Neymar broke down in a press conference as Brazil's head coach Tite stepped in to defend him. And if that wasn't enough to get the fans back on his side, the next month he popped up to a Champions League match against Celtic, watched them go in front only 54 seconds in, and got a little angry. 8 minutes later, he tied the game. Another 11 minutes after that, he put PSG in front. And 6 minutes after that, he had assisted the 3-1. So by the end, with 6 key passes and 3 big chances created, he had his third 10 out of 10 of the season. In fact, 1 game later, having already scored the winner against title holders Monaco in between, he barely missed the mark with a 9.9 rating against Troy. But then, the cycle restarted. 4 days later, Neymar not only took his first defeat of the season against Strasbourg, but went back-to-back, losing to Bayern as well. So, as always, almost as if to calm the fans down, he proceeded to score 2 and assist another 2 to get his 4th 10 out of 10 and get back in track, getting 4 more goal contributions over the next 3 games, famously even riling up his opponents by taking off his boot and balancing it on top of his head. But My point here is none of these were his best performance. That was in the next match against Dijon. Despite not being exactly a household name, Dijon were doing good that year, only a couple spots away from European qualification, which is precisely why they were completely shocked when they watched Neymar first dink it over the keeper just wide enough that Di Maria had to take a touch to it, then scoring himself on the rebound, then threw a free kick. Midway through it all, scoring maybe the goal of the season, just really bringing it back to the Santos days, and still getting one more assist followed by a penalty to make it 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 goal contributions, the most in a single match in Ligue 1 history. Not just a 10 out of 10 in every rating app, but a 10 out of 10 by L'Équipe, one of the rarest honors in the sport. For some perspective, they mostly saved those for the big games. This was only the second time in history they handed one of those for a league performance. But that month, it defined Neymar's season in a lot of other ways. Right in that very same game, from the moment he refused to give Cavani the chance to take a penalty, even though he knew he was only a goal away from PSG's goal-scoring record, it was getting controversial. Then, 2 games later, with Rennes players losing their minds trying to stop his tricks, he went as far as holding out his hand to help one of them off the ground, only to pull it back at the last second. And you may call it arrogant, but one thing is sure, Neymar had never looked so confident. So, when he met Real Madrid for the Champions League last 16, it was no surprise when he put up 13 dribbles against him, even though to this day, only Yamal ever did better than that in a Champions League game with those 14 against Inter. Yet despite assisting Rabiot with a backheel touch to open the score, by the end, PSG had lost 3-1, and the worst of all, after nearly snatching another 10 out of 10 performance the very next game, then he showed up to Le Classique in anticipation to that second leg, and despite getting an assist, he fractured his metatarsal and went out for the season. Neymar was en route for the greatest debut season of all time, and a 7-centimeter bone put an end to all of it. With 19 goals and 13 assists to his name, despite only playing 20 out of the 38 league games, Neymar was still named Ligue 1's Player of the Year. And as insane as it sounds, it was just accurate. Forget the fact it was likely the highest dribbling peak ever recorded, hitting over 7 successful dribbles per game on average. When even Prime Messi only managed 5.6, Neymar dominated seemingly every other stat. From just looking at my scouting reports alone, I could count at least 35 stats for which he was the leader across the whole league. And even if you only care about goals and assists, let me tell you that ever since then, only Lewandowski has managed to significantly outdo his numbers, and even he, with penalties subtracted, quickly goes down to Neymar's level. As he said it himself, anyone who knows football knows my prime, my peak, was at PSG. So why would anyone say he flopped? Well, without him, Real Madrid finished the job and knocked PSG out of the Champions League, and that's the thing. Nobody cares about their domestic treble. Ibra had already won all of that. What he was missing was a Champions League 4 quarter-final exits in a row. That's why PSG signed Neymar, because they saw how he carried Barcelona to come back from 4 goals down to knock them out, and they wanted that for themselves. So they triggered this cartoonishly large release clause and forced Barca to sell him whether they liked to or not, 222 million euros. It wasn't just that it was football's all-time record transfer, it was a 124% increase over the previous record, unlike anything we'd ever seen. So, with that, alongside the fact Neymar had publicly expressed his desire to leave Messi's shadow so he could take his throne, Neymar was under more pressure to succeed than maybe any other player in history, and the only way to live up to the hype was to win the Champions League. And he wasn't about to take his foot off the gas. After being denied the World Cup semi-final by the fingertips of Courtois, Neymar came back to find Unai Emery had been replaced with Thomas Tuchel, while Emery had been criticized for tactics that boiled down to pass the ball to Neymar and let him do the rest. With Tuchel, Neymar was moved deeper, things got more pragmatic, and that led to the rise of one man, Kylian Mbappe. If Mbappe had once been seen as Neymar's greatest protege, now he was seen as his biggest threat. Nothing would be more humiliating than escaping Messi's shadow only to fall into the shadow of a 19-year-old. But, unfortunately, the odds were stacked against him. He opened the Champions League with a hat-trick against Red Star, a goal and an assist against Liverpool, even matched his own record of 13 dribbles against Napoli, and yet, suddenly, Neymar was being framed as a pop star rather than a footballer, while Mbappe, born and raised in Paris, could seemingly do no wrong. So, of course, by January, precisely as Neymar put down another 10 out of 10 performance against Janga, taking 3 goal contributions to make it 29 for the season, well, Mbappe took for himself to tie him at those same 29 goal contributions. And the next game, Neymar's metatarsal broke again. 86 more days on the sidelines followed, and before he could come back, he watched his teammates get knocked out of the Champions League by a Man United squad that was about to go on a run of 12 matches with only 2 wins. Such was his shock that not only did people make a meme out of him, but he ended up getting a 3-match ban by UEFA for comments made on social media, managing to direct part of the fans' rage towards himself without even stepping on the pitch. All of that before coming back just in time to start at the French Cup final where, after getting an assist and scoring a magnificent chip, even though his teammates would be the ones who choke the title, Neymar would still manage to end up as the villain, slapping a fan on his way to collect his medal and then criticizing his own teammates, claiming that the young players need to talk less and listen more, which of course was instantly made up to be a comment against Mbappe. To which, after Neymar skipped out on the end of the year ceremony where Mbappe took over as the new player of the year, he'd promptly respond by saying that indeed some players needed to take more responsibility. So, no matter how insane Neymar's stats still were, with that drama added to the fact this was PSG's worst season since the Qatari takeover, as well as the fact he'd only played 42% of the available minutes and would injure himself for another 3 months the moment he left to play with Brazil, both Neymar and PSG would actually spend the whole summer trying to find a way to get him back to Barcelona, with the deal only failing because they were simply too broke to afford him. And, of course, only after Neymar had already claimed that the infamous remontada was his favorite football moment. In the end, he was once again on the wrong side of the fans, forced to find a way to win them back, but for him, that sort of thing was simple. First game back, a bicycle kick winner in injury time. Second game, another winner, now against Lyon, and suddenly everything was fine. But one way or another, by the end of the year, he wasn't even on the Ballon d'Or list. Meaning that 2 months later, when Allen scored 2 to put Dortmund ahead of their last 16 match, you could see by the way Neymar walked out of the pitch without even thanking the fans that he knew this was endgame. That his step in to reduce the deficit just wasn't enough. But then, the pandemic hit, and Neymar may be the only person in the world who benefited from that. Even with the stands already empty and Mbappe out for the second leg, injuries had finally allowed Neymar to do what he was meant to do, so he started a comeback and put them through to the quarters. And then, with the French league being cancelled and the UCL being reorganized into a single-leg summer tournament, all eyes were on him. It was a legacy-defining moment, and he knew it. In the quarterfinal against Atalanta, with Mbappe still on the bench, Cavani gone, Di Maria suspended and Verratti injured, Neymar not only matched Messi's record for the most dribbles in a Champions League match with 16, but as the clock hit the 90th minute with PSG still behind, he first assisted their equalizer and 3 minutes later put in the perfect through ball to win the match. Suddenly, he had Marca and the BBC running headlines about whether or not he had finally become the best player on the planet. Yet, after hitting the post twice and assisting Di Maria with a backheel touch to put PSG in their first ever Champions League final, there, the man of the match was someone else. Manuel Neuer. Neymar had now 115 goal contributions in 85 matches for PSG, and he was still seen as a failure. And so came the dark ages. Another 4 months on the sidelines followed, and meanwhile, Tuchel said a couple mean words about the Qatari management and immediately got replaced with Pochettino, who just wasn't a good fit for Neymar. And though even then, he came straight back from injury to get 2 assists against Bayern, absolutely terrorizing them on his way to the semis. Not only did they get knocked out then, with Guardiola twisting the knife saying that if he had stayed at Barcelona, he'd have won 2 or 3 Champions Leagues more, they'd also choke the title to Lille, prompting the owners to lose all sense, pulling the Uno reverse card on Barcelona and bringing Messi to Paris instead. Though that move would only push Neymar further into the background, as he'd have his worst ever season for the club, only getting 21 goal contributions in 28 matches and getting knocked out in the last 16 despite coming back from injury just in time to get 2 assists against Real Madrid. Yeah, you get the point. All of that with an ankle that would soon need surgery. 10 years, 10 Champions Leagues, only 2 semi-final appearances. Precisely the 2 times that Neymar was there. But of course, this couldn't be the end. Then Pochettino left, Galtier took over, Luis Campos took over as the new sporting director, changing their transfer policies completely, leading to the start of rumors of Neymar's departure. Yet, not only did he stay, but he started this season with maybe his greatest 4-match run ever. 2 goals in the Super Cup, 3 assists and 1 goal in the league's opener with a 10 out of 10 rating, 2 goals in the next one, and then, just to re-establish dominance, 3 assists and 2 goals, a second 10 out of 10 performance against Lille. 13 goal contributions, just 4 matches into the season. By October, he had already matched the previous season's tally as the newspapers talked of a new Neymar, but then the season was interrupted by the World Cup. In the opening game, Neymar got an assist but got injured as well. In his comeback for the last 16, he scored and assisted. And against Croatia, in the quarters, he scored one of the all-time greatest World Cup goals to go level with Pelé as Brazil's all-time record goal scorer. But just as the whole world seemed to believe the stars were about to line up for him, his team fell asleep at the wheel, conceded a goal, and lost the game on penalties. Once back, it became clear he had forced himself to play through injury, so he was sent for surgery again in February, missing out on the rest of the season yet again. 131 days on the sidelines, watching as PSG got knocked out in the last 16 once more, and ending his time in Paris with 197 goal contributions in 173 matches, but also an ACL, a metatarsal fracture, and an ankle surgery. 774 days on the sidelines in just 6 years, missing 142 matches, almost half of them. That's not the sort of thing you can blame on lifestyle. And even if you could, why is he any different from Romario or R9? Yeah.